3 more days till Halloween. 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 3 more days till Halloween. Silver Shamrock. I played something. 1982's Halloween 3 Season of the Witch has been considered the black sheep of the franchise for 40 years now, and it took about 30 years for it to finally gain a cult following strong enough to change people's minds about it. While there are still many Michael Myers only Halloween fans who are not older or wiser enough to have the revelation in their adult life to realize that Halloween is about more than a guy who kills babysitters while possibly wearing a William Shatner mask. Halloween is about tradition, and that's what this film is about. And evil corporations. And Stonehenge. And killer masks. And robots. This is Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Like every other film in the franchise, Halloween 3 is not a slasher film, but a sci-fi horror film. It is the first film to be written and directed by Tommy Lee Wallace, who gained fame as the editor on the original Halloween and The Fog. He also was the one to direct and write the TV adaptation of It in 1990, which is still to this day my preferred version of It. John Carpenter himself and Deborah Hill were still there as kind of like godfather producers to the film, who let Tommy Lee Wallace do basically whatever he wanted to and just kind of, guided him along the way. Like I said, as opposed to being a slasher, this is more science fiction and witchcraft-based storytelling here, which, if you don't know anything about it, it seems very out of left field for the Halloween franchise. The concept behind Halloween 3 in the first place is that Deborah Hill and John Carpenter thought, okay, Michael Myers' story is over, let's turn Halloween into an anthology film series. #AnthologyHorrorAugust. Which is why I'm doing a video about it. It was supposed to be the first in what became an anthology series of films. Clearly that did not happen. Every one of these Halloween standalone films would have taken place on Halloween night, telling a completely different story from one another, and all of these films themselves would have had the potential to spawn their own sequels. The lead of the film's cast is the horror sex icon, yeah, I said it, Tom Atkins as Dr. Daniel Chalice, which, even though he's only doing doctor stuff for 20 seconds of the movie, but who cares? The movie's too cool to pay attention to that. Stacey Nelkin as the leather-clad Ellie Grimbridge, and probably the greatest of all villains in history of film, perhaps. Hi, Oliver. Dan O'Herlihy as Connell Cochran, the evil owner and operator of the Silver Shamrock Novelties Corporation. The story of the film takes place on Halloween week in Northern California. A shop owner, Harry Grimbridge, who's the father of the previously mentioned Ellie, Henry, is being pursued by men in suits, in the shade, in the shadows, all creepy while carrying a jack-o'-lantern Halloween mask. These Halloween masks are so cool. We'll get into that. But yes, that's where the film opens. This guy being pursued by these evil suitmen through alleyways and what have you until the point where he collapses. He is taken to the hospital where Dr. Chalice works, who is an alcoholic man who has a strained relationship with his ex-wife and 2 children. His ex-wife is actually played by Tommy Wallace's ex-wife, Nancy Kyes, aka Nancy Loomis, who is in the original 2 Halloween films as well. Well, she's in the first one, and then she's like a corpse in the second one. But that makes her the only person to be in the first 3 Halloween films in live action. Jamie Lee Curtis shows up on a television screen later in the film that is playing the first Halloween film, showing you that this is not in the Halloween universe. This is the real world, and Halloween is just a movie. Ellie, Harry's daughter, as I mentioned, meets the doctor at a local bar and tells him about the suspicious events going on around the Silver Shamrock Corporation. To investigate, they both travel to Silver Shamrock Novelties, warehouse and factory and what have you. They check into a local motel once they get there and are told by the motel's owner that Colonel Cochran is basically keeping the town alive with this factory. It's the only thing in the town that has jobs and is pumping money into the community. So he gives him high praise for basically doing that. And this town in real life apparently is as creepy as it seems in the movie. It's like this middle of nowhere ghost town of suburbia. It's very strange. It's off-putting in the movie, and it's even more off-putting to know that that's what it's actually like outside of the movie as well. While all this is going on, another motel patron is playing with one of these Halloween masks, and there's a silver shamrock chip. Looks just like this on the back of each mask. She's picking at it with a hairpin for whatever reason. She's like, that's weird. Why does this need to be on a children's Halloween mask? It's a computer chip or some such. And while she's doing this, a giant like energy beam shoots her in the face, and it's amazing. And it like leaves her face grotesquely mutilated. You know, it's a pretty sight. It's really gross. That's like the one thing in this movie I remembered watching it as a kid, back when I was too stupid to realize this movie was awesome. I knew going into it that Michael Myers wasn't in this, and I still didn't really enjoy it because of this. I thought it was kind of weird and boring. But, you know, like I said, I've wised up. But yeah, this is like the one part in this entire movie that actually irked me as a child, was her little face. Well, you know, let's move on. So this is the first very big strange thing that happens in this movie, I would say. Other strange things happened before this, but they're smaller scale strange. This is very strange. And it just gets weirder and bigger and more fantasy, sci-fi from there. But I just don't want to spoil any more than that. So that's basically the first third-ish of the basic plot of Halloween 3. Getting into the actual filmmaking quality itself, this movie is shot by the legend cinematographer Dean Cundey, who is as responsible for John Carpenter's signature look back in the 80s and 70s as John Carpenter himself. He uses a lot of beautiful deep focus shots where everything in the shot is in focus, and he uses scope widescreen, so there's several characters and things going on all in focus at the same time. It's just really cool when you notice that. I was watching it with the commentary and they were pointing it out here and there, and it's just one of those things you don't appreciate until you start to notice it, and then once you watch it again, that's all you see, and you just appreciate some good cinematography. And Dean Cundey is one of the most underrated cinematographers of all time. And if you need more proof that Dean Cundey is just as responsible for the Carpenter look as Carpenter himself, watch the movies that Carpenter directed that Dean Cundey did not shoot, and they have a very, very lackluster appeal visually compared with his earlier work with Cundey. All this beautiful cinematography and scope widescreen deep focus shots and all that jazz is only made better by John Carpenter's amazing original score. Everyone loves the original Halloween score, obviously. While this score may not have a memorable theme to it compared to the original Halloween, overall, it is a much more moody and impactful score, and it's arguably John Carpenter's best music in any of the films that he composed for. And Tommy Lee Wallace, as a way to sort of get around the fact that this movie is called Halloween 3, even though it has nothing to do with Halloween's 1 and 2, is that he named the masks in the film, the witch, the skull, and the jack-o'-lantern, the Halloween 3. His narrating is actually Tommy Lee Wallace's voice, by the way, throughout all this movie. The, hey kids, make sure you're watching at 9 o'clock, that stuff. That's Tommy Lee Wallace, because, you know, why not have him do it? Because you don't have to pay anyone extra. But yeah, that was sort of the justification he gave himself to call this movie Halloween 3, was the Halloween 3 masks. But as we all know, the movie should probably just be called Season of the Witch, because then no Michael Myers stands can bitch and moan about it. Speaking of the masks, they were created by Don Post Studios, who is legendary, especially in that time. Trick or Treat Studios has amazing replicas of the mask that I've seen recently. Even today, I went to a store and I saw all 3 masks there, and It's a good thing I didn't have, $180 cash burn in a hole in my pocket. Otherwise, I would have bought all three of them. But the skull mask and the witch mask already existed in Don Post Studios, and then the jack-o'-lantern mask was designed specifically for the movie. As I stated, Don Post Studios has been making incredible masks since the 70s. I actually have one right here I wanted to show off. It's the 1977 mask of Ed Wood acting legend, Tor Johnson. This is actually a mask my father got, and when he was like 17 years old or whatever, when it was released in 1977. It's been in the family ever since. My kid wears it now. It's fun. But yeah, this is Tor Johnson from Plan 9 from Outer Space. That is what this mask is from. And this mask is actually in a scene in the background of Halloween 3 when they are touring the factory. I just thought I'd throw that out there. I laughed when I saw it in the movie. My head is too big to fit in here anymore. One more thing, I have to say that this looks exactly like my grandpa on my mom's side, which is always funny. So I've always used this mask to terrify my mom. And what Halloween 3 conversation could be complete without mentioning the brilliantly obnoxious Silver Shamrock theme, which is London Bridge is falling down with Silver Shamrock lyrics, because it's a public domain song and they didn't want to risk getting sued by anyone or any of that nonsense, because they didn't have a lot of money to make the movie for obvious reasons, because 80s and horror. My wife hates that song so much she refuses to watch the movie with me because that's the only thing she remembers from it. But the good thing is I have taught my kid to sing the song recently and learned to play it on the keyboard very badly, so she'll be hearing a lot more of it than usual. Since I mentioned it's low budget, I'll get into that. It was made for a very conservative, even for, the early 80s, $2.5 million, which, was a solid amount. The first Halloween was made for, a few $100,000. That's why it's still one of the most successful independent films of all time, profit to budget ratio wise. And it grossed $14.4 million, which to scale isn't like the worst thing in the world. Like, it made almost 7 times its money back, which is not bad. If a movie cost $100 million to make now and it made $700 million, they'd be, rolling in pig shit. They'd be so happy. But it was the lowest grossing of the Halloween films thus far. Everyone hated it and was confused because back then there was no internet, obviously. They couldn't really teach people that this wasn't a Michael Myers Halloween sequel. They did not have a good way to market it, which is like a theme in this series of videos. Same thing went for Trick or Treat. They didn't know what the hell they were doing with this, and even Tommy Lee Wallace takes some of the blame. He did not know a great way to advertise the film to get people in the know about what this movie actually was, as opposed to just another Halloween film. To this day, it remains the second lowest grossing Halloween film because it actually made a little bit more than Halloween 5 did, which, considering it has Michael Myers in it and how good Halloween 4 was by comparison to, many other sequels, it's kind of impressive that it made even less money than Halloween 3 did. I have to close out sort of by saying, if you haven't watched this movie because you've heard people say it's bad, or you've refused to watch it simply because it's not a Michael Myers Halloween movie, watch it. You owe it to yourself and the movie to try and watch it. It deserves to be seen, even if you hate it. You need to give it a shot because it's something different. It's not a black sheep like it has been treated. It's just not what people were expecting. Watch the film as what it is and not what the sequel title suggests that it is. Just go into it watching Season of the Witch. Don't go into it watching Halloween 3. It's an extremely unique sci-fi horror film with great practical effects and a way better vibe for the Halloween season than any of the rest of the Halloween films put together. Like I stated in my Trick or Treat video, this movie is actually about Halloween and deserves to be watched on or around Halloween because of it. Give the movie the fair shake it deserves. Even if you hate it, at least you gave it a fair shake, and that's cool with me. As long as you watch it as the film that it is, and not just the Halloween without Michael Myers, then you get to have an opinion on it. But until then, you don't. My name is Derek, the Convicted Cinephile. I hope you're enjoying #AnthologyHorrorAugust. I'll have to see if I can cram any more of these in by the end of the month. I've been busier than expected. but we'll see. Please like, share, and subscribe and all that hubbub. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Talk, shop, pop, movies. 3 more days till Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. 3 more days till Halloween.
Super Shamrock.
Finger guns. Ow, not on me.